I'm Peter Austin, that is Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, and this is interesting. In 1964, Robert and Richard Sherman, better known as the Sherman Brothers, wrote this song, as well as a dozen others, for the film adaptation of P.L. Travers' Mary Poppins books. Now, given that the word supercalifragilisticexpialidocious didn't appear anywhere in those source texts, it would be fair to assume the Shermans invented it themselves. However, a $12 million 1965 lawsuit insisted otherwise. This is the supercalifragilistic story of the Super Song. The word supercalifragilisticexpialidocious is a cultural phenomenon when you think about it. Even 60 years on from the film's release, the term has maintained enough relevance to still be used in all kinds of puns and parodies. For instance, when the Scottish football team Celtic FC suffered an embarrassing defeat to Inverness Caledonian Thistle FC in 2000, the Sun newspaper printed what is still one of the greatest ever tabloid headlines in British sports journalism: "Supercali-go-ballistic, Celtic are atrocious." Meanwhile, political activists on both sides of the aisle have long been dining out on the rhythmical list of negative adjectives format. Stuff like stupid, callous, fatalistic, pesky something voters. You just insert a two-syllable word of your choice to suit your stance. But the key question in this video, of course, is not the extent to which the word is still in use today, but whether it existed before the Mary Poppins movie. Well, according to that 1965 lawsuit filed by Barney Young and Gloria Parker, also known as Don Fenton and Patricia Smith, the song in the film infringed on both the melody and the main lyric of their track Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, aka the Super Song, written 16 years earlier in 1949. Gloria Parker believed the Sherman Brothers had first heard the word when she performed the Super Song at the Edison Hotel in New York, and Barney Young even claimed the song had been submitted to Disney themselves as something they might wish to use in one of their productions 13 years before Mary Poppins was released. As such, the defendants listed in the court documents include Walt Disney Productions, the two Sherman Brothers, and even Julie Andrews herself. So why the five-piece Pearly Band weren't served a summons as well, we may never know. Now, being a relatively obscure piece from the 1940s, I think it's unlikely the Super Song will ever make it onto YouTube's Content ID system, but given that I'm literally talking about copyright infringement litigation here, I daren't play you an actual excerpt. Instead then, I've played out the melody myself and synced up the lyrics for you so that you can decide how similar it is to the Disney song. Now, as far as the song's construction goes, it may appear to the layman that there is some shared DNA there, and actually, according to court documents, the plaintiffs attempted to demonstrate this in a very interesting way for the time. Reportedly, they hired a studio to create the 1965 equivalent of a mashup, with Julie Andrews singing overlaid onto the backing track of the Super Song and adjusted to match the key and tempo. However, while this was seen as a novelty and described as a unique offer of proof in Judge Wilfred Feinberg's case summary, it was ultimately deemed irrelevant, merely demonstrating that the songs could be made to sound similar if you edited them with the intention of making them sound similar. The case summary document makes for quite entertaining reading, actually, not least because just a few lines in, Judge Feinberg, clearly sick to death of saying and reading the whimsical Poppinsism, states, "All variants of this tongue twister will hereinafter be referred to collectively as the word." Clearly he agreed that the sound of it was something quite atrocious. But that brings us to the most pressing matter. Whether or not the songs are musically similar, what about the word itself? That part of the infringement claim appears to be an open and shut case, right? I mean, Disney released a song called Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, and 16 years earlier, the plaintiffs had a song called Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, and Young even says he coined that word himself in the 1920s as a child. That's plagiarism, right? Well, sure, it would be, admitted the Sherman Brothers, if not for the fact that the word was in common use even before the release of the Super song, suggesting it might not have been Young's invention after all. The Shermans had reportedly heard the term in their youth and simply chose to use it in their score for Mary Poppins, having allegedly never come across Young and Parker's Super song before the lawsuit. Then, alongside affidavits from New Yorkers also claiming to have heard the word in use in the 1930s, Disney were able to produce a smoking gun in the form of a written source from 1931, 18 years before the release of the Super song. In this piece from Syracuse University's student newspaper, the Daily Orange, writer Helen Herman says in 1931, "Several years ago I concocted an expression which, to me, includes all the words in the category of something wonderful. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious is the word to which I refer." This is like gold dust, and it's fascinating for several reasons. For a start, some sources will tell you that the word the Sherman Brothers were aware of from childhood had the docious suffix that you hear in the Super song, and they had to change the ending of that word to make it rhyme with atrocious and precocious. And yet here we have a source 33 years older than the Mary Poppins song that already ends in docious rather than docious. And secondly, this is not just proof that the word predates the Super song. The author of this source is actually claiming to have coined the word themselves, which makes what happened in 2007 all the stranger. You see, the Sherman Brothers initially stuck to the narrative they presented in court, even saying in their 1998 autobiography that they first encountered the term at summer camp in the 1930s. But an interview with Richard Sherman on the LAist.com in 2007 really muddied the waters. He said, "Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious is a word we sort of concocted from our childhood when we used to make up double talk words. We said, remember when we used to make up the big double talk words? We could make a really big obnoxious word up for the kids. And that's where it started. We had precocious and atrocious, and we wanted something super colossal. So we took super and did double talk to get califragilistic, which means nothing, it just came out that way. That's in a nutshell what we did over 2 weeks. Altogether, you get supercalifragilisticexpialidocious." This completely flies in the face of what was once his legal defense. The argument was that no copyright infringement could have taken place in 1964 because neither the Sherman Brothers nor Young and Parker made up the word to begin with. And yet now we have 3 different people all claiming to have invented it. It is worth noting, though, that he was 79 at the time of the LAist interview, so I suppose he could have forgotten some of the details and just spun the interviewer a bit of a yarn. That being said, though, I think even 42 years after the fact, I'd like to think I would remember going to court alongside Julie Andrews to argue the origins of one of cinema's most wonderful words. I've been Peter Austin, and that was super interesting.